My wife and her CEO dad ruined me until they learned who I was. What I did next. Unpardonable. What if the life you built, every late night, every deal closed, every vow spoken, was a house of cards waiting for one cruel push? Picture Daniel, a rising star at Bennett Enterprises, sitting in his sleek loft, unaware that his wife, Emily, and her father, Richard, the company's ruthless CEO, are about to betray him in ways that cut deeper than a pink slip. Fired without warning, handed a homeless shelter brochure by the woman he loves, Daniel's world collapses in a single, shattering moment. But is he as broken as they think? Or is there a secret he's kept hidden, even from those closest to him? As Emily's cold smirk and Richard's smug handshake linger, a phone lights up with 223 missed calls, signaling a storm they never saw coming. What does Daniel know that could flip their empire upside down? The loft's silence hides a ticking bomb of legacy and vengeance ready to detonate. This isn't just a story of betrayal. It's a high-stakes game where the quiet man in the shadows holds the winning hand, and the fallout will be unforgivable. At 9 a.m. sharp, I sat across the glass table facing the man who was not only my boss, but also my father-in-law, Richard Bennett, CEO of Bennett Enterprises, tall, grey-haired, smug, the kind of man who shook your hand like he owned it. I'd been working under him for 5 years, married his daughter Emily 3 years ago, built a life, or so I thought. But something was off. Everyone in the boardroom looked too serious for a quarterly evaluation. Even Susan from HR, who usually smiled like her life depended on it, had her lips pressed tight. Richard leaned forward. "We're letting you go, Daniel." I blinked. "What?" "Performance issues," he said flatly. The words hit me like ice water. My record was spotless. I'd brought in 3 of the top 5 clients this year alone. My last pitch closed a $2.7 million contract. What performance issues? I don't understand. This is a mistake. Richard's expression didn't flicker. "It's not." And then he added with a small smirk, "You'll get a severance. That's generous enough." I walked out of that room in a fog. Not angry, not sad, just stunned. 5 years of loyalty, of weekends sacrificed, of building his empire. And now I was trash to be taken out before lunch. The elevator ride down felt like a slow fall into a bottomless pit. My mind screamed Emily's name. She'll understand. She'll stand by me, right? Wrong. I stepped into our home, a sleek loft she insisted we buy, and found her sitting on the black leather sofa in a silk robe, sipping coffee like she was at a spa. No concern on her face. No. "Are you okay?" Not even fake sympathy. Instead, she handed me an envelope. "What's this?" I asked. She smiled, a slow, cruel smile. "Instructions for your next chapter." Inside was a brochure for a homeless shelter. No, just that. "I no longer need you," she said coldly. "Now that you're jobless." Her words didn't crack. They cut. Deep, cold, surgical. I looked around. Our wedding photo still hung by the mantel. She hadn't even bothered to take it down before throwing me out. "Emily, are you serious?" She stood, finally walked past me without touching me, without even looking. "You were just a temporary project. My father wanted you gone. I'm done pretending now. Done pretending." That moment, that exact moment, changed me. Everything I thought. I knew about my life collapsed. The dinners, the trips, the laughs, the cuddles in bed, the whispered, "I love you" lies, all of it. I was just a prop in her game, and the game was over. I walked out with a single duffel bag and a phone that buzzed, once with a text from her, "Don't come back." For the next 7 days, silence. No calls, no texts, no apologies, no explanations. I slept in a motel, staring at the ceiling, replaying every scene of our life together like a messed up movie on loop. But the twist hadn't come. Yet. Then it happened. At 2:34 a.m. on the 8th day, my phone lit up with a call from Richard Bennett, then Emily, then Richard again. 223 calls in total. All missed, all ignored, because they had just found out who I really was. And in that moment, laying in a dark motel room with the glow of 223 missed calls flashing like a pulse monitor. I smiled for the first time in days. Because now they were the ones who didn't understand what was coming. She thought I was just some average guy who got lucky marrying up. What Emily never bothered to learn or care to ask was who I was before I walked into Bennett Enterprises. She thought I was some sweet-talking sales director, good with clients, decent in bed, quiet in meetings. But my last name wasn't on my resume for a reason, because the real me didn't need a damn resume. My grandfather built the corporation that owns Bennett Enterprises distribution rights. I'm not just rich, I'm legacy, and I hid it on purpose. I wanted to build something myself. I wanted to know if people could value me without the family name. Turns out they couldn't. Not Emily, not Richard, not the board. That week in the motel, I didn't sulk. I prepared. I made 2 calls, one to my private banker, the other to the family legal team. By day 3, I had more control than they could imagine. Emily and her father had just thrown away the one person who could have saved them from what was coming. But they didn't know yet. That's why the calls came flooding in. The last voicemail Emily left was just her crying, saying, "Please call me back. I think there's been a mistake. We can talk about this." A mistake? You throw your husband out of his job, out of his house, and into the gutter. And now you think it was a mistake. It was around noon when I finally went back. Not to beg, not to explain. I walked in like a ghost, revisiting a crime scene. She was in the kitchen, wine glass in hand, makeup smeared, clearly drunk and panicked. "Oh my God, Daniel!" she gasped, rushing over like we were still something. "Where have you been? I've been calling and calling." I stepped back. "Don't touch me." She froze. "Now you want to talk." It was all a misunderstanding. My father, he. "Stop," I said, my voice flat. "You gave me a brochure for a homeless shelter. That wasn't your father. That was you." Her lips twitched. Then she switched tactics fast. "You think you're better than me now? You think because you left I care?" she hissed. "You were boring. You had no ambition. You weren't enough for me." And, just like that, the mask dropped again. No tears, no regret, just venom. "You're not even denying it." I asked. "Deny what?" "That you were screwing someone else the entire time." She scoffed. "Oh, please. What did you expect? I married a weak man. You barely looked at me anymore. You didn't make me feel wanted. So yes, I found someone who did." The words hit like a train, but I didn't flinch. I had suspected it. The late nights, the phone always flipped over the fake Pilates retreats, but hearing it come from her lips, so proud, so casual, was something else. "Was it one guy or more?" I asked. She shrugged. "Why do you care? You're out. Move on." "Wrong answer," I said, stepping closer. "Because the house you're standing in, it's not yours anymore. The account's closed. The card's cancelled. The car towed 10 minutes ago." Her smile vanished. "What are you talking about?" she asked, genuinely confused for the first time. I pulled a folded piece of paper from my pocket and placed it on the counter. "This is a legal transfer of assets. See, Emily, I bought Bennett Enterprises' outstanding debt this week, which means your daddy's company. It belongs to me now." She laughed, one short, incredulous bark. "You're lying." "I'm not," I said, calm as ever. "And tomorrow morning, there's going to be a company-wide meeting. Your father will be there. So will the new board." She stumbled back, like I had physically shoved her. You can't do this. I already did." Then I turned toward the door. "You broke something in me, Emily. You burned down everything we built. But you forgot one thing. Some men don't beg. Some men build empires while you're busy playing in the dirt." She screamed something behind me. I didn't catch it. I was already walking down the hallway, and I swear I heard her glass hit the wall. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. I was done being her pawn. Now it was her turn to lose everything. The next morning, I stood at the head of the long boardroom table, the same one where Richard Bennett fired me a week ago. Only now I wasn't seated like an employee waiting to be judged. I was the one in charge. Richard walked in, flanked by two of his senior VPs. He looked tired, confused, like a man who hadn't slept all night. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. He saw me and stopped. His face twisted. "What are you doing here, Daniel?" I leaned back in the chair, smiled. "Good morning, Richard. I asked you a question, and I'll give you an answer," I said calmly. "Have a seat." The room went quiet. The VPs didn't know what was going on, but they followed my lead and sat down. Richard hesitated, but finally sank into the chair opposite me. I slid a folder across the table. "What's this?" he asked. "Confirmation of purchase," I said. "My family trust, the one you didn't know about, just acquired every piece of debt your company was drowning in. We also picked up majority shares from your two largest investors yesterday." Richard paled. "That's not possible." "It is," I said, "and it's done." He opened the folder. The more he read, the less blood stayed in his face. His hand trembled, his jaw clenched. "You planned this," he said. "I didn't deny it. You used my daughter. You used this company." "No," I said, "I loved your daughter. I worked hard for this company, but the two of you fired me and threw me out like garbage. You made this personal. Now you get to live with it." "I'll fight this," he said weakly. "I've got lawyers." "So do I. Better ones." The room was silent, except for the shuffle of pages. Richard looked smaller than I'd ever seen him. I stood. "You're no longer CEO, effective immediately. I've appointed a new executive team. HR will help you clean out your office. And Richard, try not to cry in front of your old assistants. It's pathetic." He didn't move, just sat there stunned. I walked out, nodding to the boardroom. "Gentlemen, that afternoon I went back to the loft one last time. Not to fight, not to talk, just to collect what was mine." Emily was there, sitting on the edge of the bed, makeup smeared again, phone in hand. She looked up, eyes wild. "Daniel, please." I didn't mean any of it. I was scared. I thought you were just some guy." "Yeah," I interrupted. "You did?" "I made a mistake," she whispered. "You made several mistakes." She stood and walked over. "We can fix this. I still love you." I was just confused. My father pressured me. It was all happening so fast. "You gave me a homeless shelter brochure, Emily." I was being dramatic. "I didn't mean it. But you meant it when you told me I wasn't enough, right? When you bragged about being with other guys." "That wasn't drama. That was the real you." She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. I dropped a small envelope on the bed. "Divorce papers already signed. I'm leaving the loft to you as a parting gift. But the bank account's done. The card's gone. The connections you used to flaunt at your little brunches all cancelled." Her eyes filled with tears. I almost believed her. Almost. "You'll regret this," she whispered. I tilted my head. "That's the difference between us. You regret things after they fall apart. I build something better." I turned to leave. "Wait," she called out. "What am I supposed to do now?" I paused in the doorway. "You'll figure it out," I said. "Or maybe you won't. Either way, I'm not your problem anymore." I closed the door behind me, not softly. As I walked to the elevator, I felt a strange kind of peace, not happiness, not yet. But the air felt different, lighter. That night, I sat on a rooftop downtown with a drink in my hand in a quiet city below. Everything was behind me, the betrayal, the humiliation, the rage, and ahead, only space, only choices. The revenge wasn't the best part. Watching her world crumble wasn't either. It was the moment I realized I didn't need her to begin with, and she finally realized who I really was. 3 weeks passed. I didn't hear from Emily after that last scene, not directly at least. But whispers found their way to me through mutual friends, old colleagues, even my ex-assistant who used to run errands for her. Apparently, Emily wasn't doing too well. The loft was quiet now, too quiet for someone who used to throw wine nights every Thursday just to feel adored. Her so-called friends stopped coming around when the champagne stopped flowing. That's the thing about social climbers. They scatter the moment you slip. I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy hearing about her downfall. There was a certain pleasure in knowing she finally had to live with herself with no spotlight, no status, just silence and a full-length mirror. But then something unexpected happened. One rainy Friday night, just as I was getting into my car outside the office, I saw a black SUV parked across the street. A figure stepped out. Emily, hair pulled back, oversized coat, heels clicking on the pavement. She looked different, less polished, almost desperate. She walked straight up to my car and knocked on the window. I hesitated, then rolled it down. A crack. "What do you want?" She flinched like I'd slapped her. "I just want to talk," she said, her voice small, almost brittle. I opened the door and stepped out. "Make it quick. I know you don't owe me anything," she began. "But I'm not here to beg. I just wanted to tell you something." I crossed my arms. "Go on." She hesitated, then took a deep breath. "I didn't just cheat on you because I was bored or cruel," she said. I know it sounded like that. I was cruel, but I was also afraid. "Afraid of what?" I asked, annoyed she was dragging this out. "You," she whispered. I blinked. "What the hell does that mean? You never really let me in. You were always holding something back." I felt like I was married to a stranger, and when I realized you didn't need me, when I realized I was optional to you, it scared me. I laughed once, cold and short. You didn't feel like I needed you, so your solution was to humiliate me, sleep around, toss me aside the second you thought I lost my worth. Her eyes welled up, but I felt nothing, not even a flicker. "I was wrong," she said, "about everything. When my dad told me you weren't performing well, I thought it was over for you. I panicked. I thought I had to secure something else before it all came crashing down." I stared at her for a long time. Then I said, "That's the difference between you and me. You look for an exit. I build another floor." She looked down. "I know." We stood there in silence as the rain started to come down harder. She was shivering, now, but I didn't move. "I'm not asking for another chance," she said quietly. "I just needed to say it because you were a better man than I deserved. And I'm sorry I only saw that when it was too late." I nodded once. "You're right. It is too late." She turned to go, and for a moment I thought that was it. But just before stepping into her car, she looked back. "Daniel?" she asked. "Yeah, that guy I was seeing, he's in jail now." "You were right about him." I raised an eyebrow. "Jail, assault, and fraud. He used me. I wanted to say like you used me, but I didn't. I just gave her the same look she once gave me when she handed me that envelope. Blank, cold, distant." She drove off. I stood there in the rain a while longer, watching the lights fade down the street. Back at my place, I sat by the window thinking, not about her, about everything else, about how easily life can shift, about masks, about the way people only show you who they are when they think they have nothing left to lose. She had finally lost everything, and she had nothing left to hide. But me, I still had cards left to play. The next few days were strangely quiet. The storm had passed, both the real one outside and the one named Emily. But quiet doesn't mean peaceful. My mind kept circling back to everything she said. Not because I believed her, but because I realized something. I had been blind for longer than I thought. I didn't just marry a liar. I built a life around her lies. And that life, it was full of clues. The cancelled dinners, the business trips that didn't add up, the lingerie I never saw again after it was bought, the hollow look in her eyes when she said, "I love you," without blinking. But the worst part wasn't the betrayal itself. It was that I had seen it coming and ignored it. I'd always assumed loyalty came with love. That if you gave someone the best of you, they'd never throw it away. Turns out some people treat diamonds like gravel when they're too busy looking at shiny trash. One morning, I got a message from an unknown number. Just an address, no name, no explanation. Something told me to go. I arrived at a cafe just off the main square, the kind of place that tried too hard to look rustic. Inside at a corner table sat someone I never expected to see again. Ryan, my old college roommate, a guy I hadn't spoken to in years, and the last person I expected to be tied to this story. He stood up, offered a handshake. Daniel, long time. I shook it slowly. What's going on, Ryan? He sat down. You're going to want to hear this. I took a seat. He pulled out his phone, tapped the screen, and turned it toward me. Video footage. Emily in a hotel room, laughing with a man I didn't recognize at first until he turned around and faced the camera. Richard Bennett, her father. My breath froze. Ryan leaned in. That's from 9 months ago. They were in Chicago. The guy who installed the surveillance system, he's a mutual friend, sent me this when your name came up in a conversation. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. They weren't together in the way I feared. Thank God, but they were plotting. You could hear it in the audio, clear as day. Richard, he's too clean. We need to discredit him. Emily, he's not suspicious. I can push him out. I just need a few more weeks. Richard, once he's gone, I'll replace him with someone loyal. You'll get your share. She had planned it. All of it. She didn't just cheat on me emotionally. She conspired with her own father to destroy me. I sat back, cold fire rushing through my veins. She said it was all a mistake. I muttered. Ryan frowned. Yeah, well, that mistake had a timeline. Witnesses, an execution. Doesn't look like an accident to me. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My phone buzzed again. A message from Emily. I miss you. I laughed. Ryan looked at me. What are you going to do? I pocketed the phone, something she'll never forget. That night, I called my lawyer, set up a press meeting. I want full exposure. He paused. Are you sure? This could get messy. I'm counting on it. 3 days later, the story hit. Whistleblower reveals CEO's daughter and former executive conspired internal sabotage plot. The footage went public. The phone recordings, the timeline, everything. Bennett Enterprises stock plummeted 43% in one day. Richard was suspended by the board. Investigations were launched. Investors pulled out. And Emily, she vanished from every social feed within hours. No more bikini photos with fake captions about healing and new energy. No more brunches. No more smug little smiles. Gone just like that. Some people crash when you push them. But Emily, she lit the fuse herself. A week after the scandal broke, I was sitting alone in my office, the new office, the one with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city Emily once bragged about owning. My phone was off, my coffee cold, and I was staring at the same replayed video again, her and Richard, whispering like snakes. My blood didn't boil anymore. It was colder now, focused, controlled. Then came the knock. I knew that knock. Light, unsure, but deliberate. I didn't answer. I just waited. The door creaked open. Emily stood there, not with her usual pouty entrance or designer bag slung over her shoulder. No makeup, hair tied back. She looked 10 years older than she did last month. Daniel, she said quietly. Please, I didn't say anything. She walked in slowly, shutting the door behind her like she was afraid it might scream. I'm not here to ask for anything. I needed to face you one more time. I finally looked, up at her. You should be in hiding. I was, she said with a weak laugh. But hiding doesn't erase guilt. It just makes it echo louder. She sat down without asking. Old of her or just foolish, still thinking she had the right. I didn't know the footage existed, she said. I know, I replied. That's why it was perfect. She winced. I deserve that. No, you deserve worse. Silence stretched. I didn't expect this to go so far, she said, eyes glossing. We thought we could push you out, make it seem like it was your fault. And then, I don't know. I guess I thought I'd be in control. You were in control, I said flatly for a moment. Long enough to burn your life to the ground. She nodded slowly. My father's gone. No one's taking his calls. His lawyers won't even return messages. The company board forced him to resign yesterday. Did you know? I knew before you did. Her lip trembled. And me? Am I going to be arrested? Maybe. Depends what else they find. Your voice is all over that video. She looked down. I lost everything, she whispered. Everyone abandoned me. I leaned forward. Everyone you kept around only stayed because you had something to offer. You knew that. You chose that life. You laughed in my face while building your exit plan. You mocked me while climbing into bed with other men. And now you sit there wondering why no one's left. Tears rolled down her cheeks now, but they didn't move me. You used to love me, she choked. I did, I said. And you loved what I gave you until it wasn't enough. She looked at me, desperate. Please tell me there's a way back, that I can fix something. I stood up. There's nothing left to fix. She stood too, shaky. Then why let me in here? I took a breath because I wanted to see what a ruined liar looks like when they're finally forced to feel. She gasped softly, her knees buckling. She sank back into the chair. I'm sorry, she whispered. I was cruel, I was greedy, and I'm alone now. You were always alone, Emily, I said. You just used other people to feel full. Now you're just facing the truth without the spotlight blinding you. We stood in silence for a minute. She didn't cry like before. These were quiet, still tears. The kind you shed when there's no more pretending left. I opened the door. She looked at it. You're letting me go? No, I said. I let you go the moment you handed me that envelope. She nodded slowly, stood, and walked toward the hallway. No final words, no dramatic exit, just silence. When the door closed behind her, I sat back down and looked at the city lights. Emily was over. Richard was done. But I wasn't finished yet. There was still one more chapter to write. 2 months later, everything had settled. Public opinion had shifted from scandal to fascination. News anchors called it the corporate coup of the year. Financial blogs praised the silent heir who flipped the script. Shareholders were thrilled. The company was reborn. But for me, it wasn't about the headlines. It was about closure, not revenge. That burned out weeks ago. What I craved now was stillness, peace, something honest. One rainy evening, I drove back to the neighborhood where it all started. Not the loft, not the skyscrapers, but the old 2-bedroom apartment I lived in before Emily. The place with the creaky floorboards, dusty curtains, and a view of the parking lot. I parked and just sat there, staring out the window, watching strangers walk their dogs, couples bickering under umbrellas, a kid riding a scooter through puddles. That used to be my world. Simple, real. I remembered a version of myself who thought love was enough. That loyalty meant something, that if you gave your best to someone, they'd never turn on you. I was wrong, but being wrong didn't make me weak. It made me awake. Later that night, I found myself writing something. Not a letter to Emily, not a blog post, just a note to myself, the man I used to be, the man I might become again. Don't ever apologize for loving too hard, but don't ever forget how they treated you when you had nothing to offer. Never let charm blind you to character. And if they ever hand you a brochure for a homeless shelter, smile because they just handed you the keys to your freedom. The next morning, I had breakfast at a local diner. Alone, quietly. No spotlight, no name tags, just coffee, eggs, and peace. The waitress flirted a little. I smiled back, but didn't bite. I wasn't ready. Not yet. Later that week, I got a call from a charity I'd anonymously donated to. The same shelter Emily tried to humiliate me with. The director told me my funding had helped expand their services by 40%. New beds, new programs, better care. I hung up and laughed to myself. That brochure, best thing anyone's ever given me. Emily never reached out again. Richard disappeared from the media. Bennett Enterprises became just another chapter in my book, not the whole story. As for me, I started something new, something mine, not born out of revenge or rage, but clarity. I don't need to burn bridges anymore. I built better roads. So, if you're a man reading this, maybe you're still stuck in the storm. Maybe you just got handed your own version of a brochure. Let me tell you something. You are not what they say when they're angry. You are not who they see when you're down. And if they think getting rid of you means they've won, let them think that, and then quietly turn everything they knew upside down and walk away without ever looking. Betrayal's sting isn't just the wound. It's the mirror it forces you to face, revealing how deeply you trusted the unworthy. Daniel's journey through Emily's and Richard's calculated sabotage at Bennett Enterprises unveils a truth, as sharp as it is liberating. Those who claim to love you can orchestrate your ruin with a smile. His rise from the ashes, wielding a hidden legacy to topple their empire, teaches us that strength isn't in enduring pain, but in transforming it into power. The profound lesson here is that loyalty, when given blindly, is a vulnerability. Guard it with discernment, not devotion. Daniel's story offers piercing advice. Never ignore the signs: late nights, guarded phones, hollow promises, that whisper of deceit. Trust your instincts over sweet words, for character reveals itself in actions, not vows. Choose those who value your worth without needing your wealth or status to see it. Emily's collapse, orchestrated by Daniel's quiet mastery, proves that betrayers often sow their own destruction, but true victory lies in reclaiming your soul. Don't let their lies redefine you. Let them fuel your clarity. Time doesn't erase scars, but it grants space to forge them into armor. Daniel emerged not vengeful, but awake, building a life where authenticity trumps illusion. For anyone handed their own brochure of betrayal, know this: you are not their verdict. Rise, rewrite your story, and walk forward with a heart fortified by truth.